Ndlozi, Honorable Ndlozi, and Honorable Mentor.
Sorry. These C. Yeah, we didn't have this. It says opposition party means a party that is not represented in and is opposed to the government. No, the line is represented in the national executive. Because you can vote for a president but not take a cabinet post and reserve your opposition status. Huh? Are you stopping me? So C must fall.
Well, before it falls, let's hear other views of members.
Yeah, what? That's my.
Yes,
Okay.
I hear. So I'm saying before it falls or stands, let's just hear other views. Honorable Ghana and Honorable Vessels.
Thanks.
Honorable Mentor,
So-
I'm sorry. Honorable
So
Mentor.
as I understand it,
Honorable Ghana, sorry.
All right.
Honorable Mentor was following Honorable Ndlozi.
Thank you, Speaker. Now, I also want to understand when you say opposition party means any party that is not represented in the national executive. And now the reality is that we have a group of parties that have an agreement to be in government, but then they are not in executive. So you mean that that party, if ever, for example, MK was in the GNU, would now still be an official opposition because they didn't take executive? That can't be true. So that B is wrong. It can't say opposition party means any party that is not represented in the national executive. You might not be represented in the national executive, but be part of the collective agreement of governing. Therefore, you are not an opposition.
Thank you. Honorable Ghana, followed by Honorable Vessels.
yeah, thanks very much, Speaker. So the points on page 3, the points in page 3 that Honorable Ndlozi is raising. So these were in discussion. I remember, I think also Honorable Vessels had raised this particular point. It actually came from him. So these are the points that were considered to inform the recommendation rather than a formal thing. So I did say, and I think Honorable Ndlozi, even in the document that is referred to, speaking about the national executive, because it's important to ensure that in our definitions, we do not import something that does not happen in the assembly. So if political parties, let's say for instance, during an election, there's an agreement between political parties in terms of how, to the point that Honorable Ndlozi was speaking to, decide how they will vote for the president. If they do not take an executive position, if they are not in the national executive, you cannot then create a class of political parties that are sitting in the middle. Either you are in the national executive or you are not. You can't be in the middle. Because if you then say, on the basis that a party, let's say MK, decides to sign the GNU but does not take an executive position, you cannot then classify them as the executive when they are not in the executive. Insofar as Parliament is concerned, it's either parties are in the executive or they are not, unless the attempt is to create a third class of political parties that find themselves agreeing outside Parliament on political directions that maybe, for instance, happens, especially in local government, wherein political parties will say we'll support this party to be the mayor, but we are not going into the executive. So for the purposes of Parliament, either a party is in government or it's not. There can't be a in-between class that we then introduced. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And that was the understanding that the subcommittee on rules had, that you cannot have 3 classes. You know, they're either executive or opposition. You can't have the third class of political parties. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Honorable Vessels.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. I held exactly the view that the Honourable Menti now expressed in the sub-rules, but I was convinced that for now, let's stick to national executive. I think it's something that should be explored in future, but the Honourable Ndlosi also made valid points with regards to how the Constitution defines, and then we must talk about the national executive. But on page 3, as the Honourable Ghana said, it's only the views that were expressed. The recommendation is on page 4, so we can't omit anything on page 3. Those were the views, but then we agreed on page 4 on the definition and those 2 definitions, A and B. And I think that was and is the proposal from the subcommittee, and I don't think there's any problem with that. But I did hold that view as well, and it's your member that disagreed with me a lot.
Honorable Kaja and then Honorable Session.
Is it me? Oh, so in addition to what the 2 honorable members are saying, is that the EFF came with its own definition. The ANC came with its own definition in its document. The DA came with its own definition. MK, not in writing, but they participated in the debate and came with their definition. And they are outlined here to demonstrate the background on which we arrived to this recommendation. So whether those 4 are there or not, it's immaterial, because that is the background in which we arrived at a recommendation. So it's not whether it's removed or it's there. It doesn't matter. What matters is we arrived on this recommendation based on the discussions that were brought by different political parties. I thought clarifying that will help, Chair.
Gubane.
Chair, on my side, to emphasize as well the point by Honorable Mente on where the statement comes from, as a clarity, Chair. It was, we did speak about this, and it was meant to say, if we go dig deep on what the GNU's intent that other parties have signed, it's got some clause that hinders them to exercise that fully fledged right of opposition. It was on that spirit that we said there is no middle party. If you've signed the GNU, you are bound by what you agreed on in that statement of intent. That's where we did propose to say there is no middle class or whatever you call it. Its spirit was that, to say, for the mere fact that you signed the GNU, it means you will have hindrances of opposing the other side. And that point, we even spoke about it as MK. We even spoke about it in an issue of Scopa Chair's appointment. And we saw a deficiency there to say, probably that chairperson will have difficulty to hold account the executive fully fledged if they can go and read the some lines within the GNU statement of intent of what it says. If we can go dig deep, it was on that spirit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Shivambo, and I see Honorable Member there next to Stole.
No, thank you very much, Speaker. I think what possibly helps in this discussion is that this report is a report of the subcommittee on rules, which has to be processed here. So we legitimately have to find absolute clarity from what the subcommittee had recommended. So here's a scenario where you have a group of political parties that agree on a coalition agreement, whatever they call it, whether it's a GNU or it's a coalition outright. And then they say that as part of our working arrangements, you are going to chair committees there, you are going to get executive positions in provinces. And then when we come to parliament, the same group of parties, then they say, no, we're no longer working together because we have not occupied an executive position here. We are now opposition, official opposition, or whatever you call it, because we currently are not in the national executive. I think it's not a proper representation of what opposition should be. I would think that opposition should completely not be in any form of alliance or coalition with the government or those who are in the national executive at all levels. I think that should be clarity in terms of how it is in this context. It's because like we can make an arrangement that okay, we're working together there, you will take care of us there, and then when you come to parliament, you must act like your opposition to us. It's some of the key questions that we have to then invade, and not in a way of undermining the discussions in the sub-rules committee, in the subcommittee on rules. It's just to try to strengthen the multi-party system of democracy, which recognizes the official opposition and that there must be opposition parties. So if we fuse opposition and those who are executive, it becomes problematic because it becomes fast in terms of the opposition status that is assigned to certain political parties. It's not a mechanical discussion, it's a political discussion that we have to make due consideration to, so that we do not feign opposition when it's really not there. So that is the issue. We're not attacking the subcommittee on rules. We are questioning your wisdom thus far as to, is this wisdom durable? Let's test it.
Honourable Member?
No, thanks, Speaker. Firstly, I think we need to correct the narrative that says GNU is something official in this parliament when you are inside, because there is no constitutional agreement in terms of the GNU. Signing the GNU was a political agreement outside of the parliament that has come to parliament to be implemented. So there is nothing binding in terms of that. So we cannot come here always when we're talking, we say that those who are in the GNU and what so forth, but so I think, Chair, Speaker, I'm just being stopped by my colleague here, Shivambu, when he's saying it is a political agreement. Then I think he is correct. Then if he is correct to say so, his comrades should know that political and official things are two separate things. So we cannot come here and argue that those who are the GNU and no. Let's leave out the GNU. That is the agreement that we have, a political agreement. But when we are coming here making something that's official, we must make sure that we don't include that. I wanted to come to that angle to say we cannot drag time. Let's adopt this and move on. Thank you.
Honourable members, I've heard you, I've seen the hands. I think we've got clarity on page 3 that these were definitions that were discussed in the review subcommittee. The recommendation, and I don't think there's any difference on the leader of opposition, that's very clear. On the opposition party, I think what is being raised, and I was going to appeal to members that maybe for now, let's not conclude on this other matter. We note that there are concerns that you might have an arrangement where members of the GNU who are not necessarily in the executive, what becomes their status? And I think Ngubane was saying in the reflection was to then create another class in between. And I would suggest that maybe let's not finalize. We have this as a working definition, and we allow the Rules Committee to apply itself to say, how do we coin a party that may not necessarily be in the executive, but does work with the collective of those parties that are in the national executive, if you would agree with me. Can I agree that we TPC this one? Yes.
All right. Thanks, Chair. So we just agreed on C, which is the seating arrangement. So we agreed on the seating arrangement on C, which says that the parties that have representation in the national executive sits on the right-hand side. Ne? We agree. Then everyone else is an opposition party because you can't be in between the national executive and on the other side. So if you have accepted C, then D follows because if you keep D here, no,
Order, honorable members.
no.
Honorable Ghana, can I prevail on you? I've noted, and that's why I said let's allow this as a working definition until we reflect all of us. Order, order.
C.
Order, honorable members.
It's not.
Order, Ghana, honorable Ghana. That is why I said I have noted the issue that is being raised. But for now, we may not have enough time to reflect and persuade and say how finally we close this matter. So we allow it as a working definition for now as the subcommittee has advised us. But we do note that this is a matter we have to go back to and reflect on it. So you agree with me?
So that I don't go out confused here.
Yes.
The recommendation around the opposition party says means any party that is not represented
Yes.
in the national executive. Is there anyone who is refusing that?
Can I?
So that we don't deal with discussions, we deal with the
Mika,
recommendation.
can I prevail on you? There
Okay.
were members who raised a point to say you may have parties that agree with the spirit of the GNU, but are not necessarily in the executive. So how do we deal with that? And that is why I'm saying we do not have enough time to persuade one another on that matter. And that's why I quoted what Honorable Ngubane had said, to say they looked at this matter and indeed it was not clear to say how do you package something else in between. So that is why I was saying, let's allow this as a working arrangement, but allow the Rules Committee to come back on this matter and we finalize it and persuade one another. So we agree with the recommendation as the working definition and we come back to the matter. I appeal on you. Shibambo.
The speaker, what is the working definition?
Is as it is on B,
That
page 4.
so, but this takes into account the observation that we're making. Let's say it an objection, Mahlaule, so that you're clear. That if you have got a known working relationship with a group of political parties, and you accommodated them as chairs of committees, you accommodate them in provinces, and then you come here, you say, no, this side, let's act like we're not together, you're opposition this side.
That is
So
why.
that is the issue which must be
No,
noted.
honorable members,
So I want to agree with you, Speaker, that let's agree that there's no unanimity in terms of this. It's going to be subject for further deliberations and discussions, side that we come with a much more acceptable agreement as to who is opposition
I don't think
in the
you-
context of the politics that we have now. That is what we have then to deal with.
Yes, that's why I said, in order for us to continue deliberating this matter, which we are not yet agree on, let's allow that we will come back to the issue. And I've raised in clearly what other observations have been raised. And I even raised the matter, which relates to the same matter raised by Honorable Ngubane in this instance. And my worry is that if we continue, we will not going to finish because each one will persuade each other. And I don't think today we can actually finally resolve this matter. Can I get consensus? Agreed. Let's move on the recommendation on the composition of the rules. There's a recommendation there. The definition of chief whip be adjusted to take into account the different categories of largest, second largest, and opposition parties. Are we agreed? Are we agreed? Okay, can we move on E on the composition of the Rules Committee? Honorable Member?
I'm just uncertain of whether is it the wording or how it's typed on the recommendation that speaks to. I think it's A. It reads as follows: the composition of the Rules Committee, or should be. Oh no, it's fine. No, I think I understand what's happening here. Okay, no, thanks. I'm sorted.
No, thank you very much. Can we now move to the briefing on the arrangements on the opening address? Yeah. Mr. Stolle, can you brief us about tomorrow?
Thank you, Speaker. Good evening, honorable members. The members will note that tomorrow will be the day where the statement will be making. That tomorrow will be the 18th in terms of the president having requested the joint sitting of the two houses in terms of the constitution read together with the joint rules that are relevant to the convening of the joint sitting. So tomorrow will be the joint sitting, and the statement, the president will then be addressing the joint sitting of Parliament. The sitting will take place at City Hall at the normal times, 1900 hours. The theme of the sitting tomorrow is your parliament, your voice, and your future. That will be the theme that Parliament will be running with, and it will then take place tomorrow. The next slide will deal with the nature of the event. Yes, they're still trying to connect. Honorable Jose.
Honorable members, let's allow sit on. He knows. Are we having a problem? Can you proceed? I think the slide is there now.
Thank you, Speaker. We did indicate that the joint sitting is convened in terms of the Constitution, Section 84, and read together with the joint rules, Rule 7. We did indicate that the theme is your parliament, your voice, and your future. And it will be held at the City Hall on the 18th. And the ceremonial component will be all the military responsibilities that the military will perform. The procession of the provincial speakers, premiers, and the judiciary will take place. And the praise singer will be from the province of Limpopo. And in this case, you'll note that in the presentation it does indicate that the fly pass will be excluded given the fact that it will be dark. The next slide is basically that we are saying to honorable members, these are the percentages of our preparation. You'll realize that on the guest relations, it says we have not been doing well. However, this is influenced by the number of guests that have confirmed. We keep on updating that particular slide. We are not in a panic on it because we've up until now updated the percentage. The next slide. It basically indicates that Parliament has already issued the notice and the order paper for the proceedings, and that all other arrangements of interpretation have been put in place, including reporting on the hand side. The next slide is a protocol arrangement, basically indicating the VIPs that have been invited, that have confirmed at the time of us preparing this particular slide, and that this will change in relation to the number of other VIPs that have not yet confirmed. A draft order of proceedings have been prepared that basically sequencing all the processes that will take place. And the last bullet does indicate that the briefing to presiding officers will have taken place. It did take place today. This is a continuation of the guests. It indicates all the guests that will be invited on the rotation, some of them on a rotation, particularly on these other organizations, academics, trade union, and NGOs. And I must indicate that the Pan-African Parliament has also been included as one of the organizations that have been invited to attend the event. The next slide deals with the venue. It basically deals with the allocation of the venue, and it deals with where our guests will be seated. The guests will be seated in the banqueting hall. It will be seated. They will be accommodated in the council chambers and in the marquee that has been put in place to accommodate the guests. And all those structures have been put in place. And today we've been able to take the presiding officers and the relevant ministers through a process to indicate the preparedness or the state of readiness. The next slide. This slide also deals with the stakeholders that we normally get involved with in terms of the preparation. And all those are the organizations that we are involved with, the presidency, the judiciary, and all other departments that are mentioned, including the city of Cape Town. This slide is basically the dates of the activities that we'll be dealing with in terms of different activities that will take place. The security arrangements, all members of parliament who will be coming from the villages will be taken straight to the venue. The buses will take all members to the venue, and all members of parliament who may decide to drive to parliament on that day, they will then have access to their parking, and they'll be shuttled from parliament to the venue, and then after the sitting, they'll be shuttled back to be connected with their vehicles at parliament. And all other guests will then be shuttled in accordance to the arrangement that we have with the guest. I can indicate that the media and service providers have been given the accreditation by the state security, and all other guests have been given accreditation by parliament. This is a continuation of the security arrangement that have been put in place in terms of the parliamentary staff and all other staff that will be included on the day, and the dates of accreditation that will take place starting from the 15th to tomorrow at 1600 hours. That's a continuation of the security slide. Basically, is that all security arrangements have been put in place as we will normally do in the State of the Nation address. Transport arrangement, I did indicate that buses will move from the villages, and there will be members of parliament will be taken straight to the venue, and all other members of parliament will then, who uses their transport, will have access to their parking, and they'll be shuttled between the venue and joining them to their vehicle. With that note, Speaker, will want to end that presentation.
Thank you. Honourable members, that was the briefing about tomorrow. Stole.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I see that they says all members from village will be delivered to the venue, to the sitting venue. Is it possible? Because the buses, the others will leave the village at 2:30, and the others at 3:30. And so it means that from 2:30, I must go and sit there in the city hall.
Honourable Ghana, followed by Honourable Ndlozi.
Thanks very much, Madam Speaker. Just a quick one. It might have moved fast around. I had the transportation of guests. Of members will the same transport be used for guests of MPs? So should guests be told to come to Parliament and then be shuttled to the City Hall? Just to check that whether that's the understanding. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Ndlozi?
Thanks, Speaker. Besicela amabhasi asuke ekseni uku-accommodate ama-caucus. Ngoba kunama-caucus ayokwenzeka ekseni. As is usual, the caucus time, can we have transport for that kusasa?
Okay.
And then isibuyele sibamukise baye emakhaya bayofaka amaroka amashi babuye. Ngoba upresident uthi uzoaddressa ngo 7 ebusuku.
Yeah.
Yakhona abantu abayafuna ukutithivator.
Okay.
But ama-caucus ekseni sicela leyo transport arrangements ihlelwe.
Yes. Ake ngizwe ke ukuthi uJobe uthi ukhona nesicelo esenziwe la ukuthi awu ingathi kuzoba eli kakhulu. Abanye bathi yeba kube eli ekseni futhi nango not even u2 phinde kubuyelwe emakhaya phinde futhi kubuyiswe mase sizithivatile. Nanokuthi ke ama-shuttle azowathatha nama-visit ethu awathathela kuphi. Isho-ke.
Speaker, we will indeed work hard between now and then to make sure that transport is there in the morning for caucuses. And indeed, shuttles will be moving members of parliament and their guests. Guests will all be meeting in different places. We have guests of a president that will pick them somewhere, and all other guests will be picked up in parliament. And we will shuttle them to and back wherever we'll have picked all the guests from. So we will indeed do that. And of course, the suggestion that has been made, we will indeed work on it as a matter of urgency.
Honorable Mentor?
No, enye into speaker kule nto yama-guest. Kuzobaleka beza buses zibe khona ekseni kwenzela ii-members zizothatha ii-guest tags zazo. Ii-guest yimesi phaa kulaa office ukuthiwe makuyiwe kuyo. Abakagqiba uprinta, balahle i-information, kungona abafuna i-information ngoku kwii-members ezininzi. Wasending information ye-guest again. So ii-guest zizofumana ii-tags zazo ngomso, therefore ii-members okubalekile uba zize kusasa zizothatha ii-tags zizokwazi uyolanda ii-guest zazo emva kwemini. Nkosi.
Nkosi. From the team, arrangements will be made to make sure that that is facilitated. There is indeed a backlog in the accreditation. So I think the point raised by Honorable Mentor, it's important, and we take note of that. But also the issue of caucuses, those parties who will have caucuses in the morning, and the ideal time of coming into Parliament. There was a concern raised that the 2 p.m. might be a bit too early for members to come to the precinct. So I will ask if the team can reflect on that and communicate with the whips. Yes, Honourable Member.
Just one thing, Speaker. Considering that tomorrow it will be raining and they are saying it will be 100%. Those who drive cars and are searched there, remember they are not allowed to get into the tent where police are. Is there an arrangement that when it's searched there, they are not rained on? Yes, Honorable Ndlozi. Because ordinarily they push you back to say, no, we're searching your car, we're searching you, be outside. Are there arrangements on that so that we don't get rained on?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to propose that maybe the 2 o'clock or 2:30 bus is withdrawn, then at 4:30, all parks. 4:30, all parks have two buses. If it can be done like that, Honorable Speaker, that's my proposal. Because 2:30 or 2 o'clock is too early for members of parliament to be here and it's very cold. Honorable Flores?
No, Honorable Speaker, if members would check the SMS messages, there is a message that came out at 5:30 this evening to say the times of the buses are 2:30 and 3:30, with the last bus at 4:30. So the job, and they must just check in terms of the number of buses that will be dispatched at the time. But the message is on the SMS notification.
Thank you very much. I think there was a proposal that maybe the 2 o'clock bus should not be there. Rather, it becomes part of the 4:30 buses. House Chairperson, internal arrangement, I'm sure you're noting that. But we've taken proposals that have been made and we should be informed on the plans that have been made. Can we now move to the seating arrangements? Inzima ke le seating arrangement.
Madam Speaker,
Ne-NCOP nayo. Yeah? Yeah, let's have the seating arrangement.
Madam Speaker, this morning there was a discussion on the sitting arrangement, and we were urged to, some parties wanted to sit together. In other words, their members must sit together, because initially we made an effort to place leaders in the front row or close to the front rows. But parties gave us feedback and said they would rather be together, even if it means they sit at the back. So this is an effort to do that. There was also a view that the sitting arrangement must already reflect what has just been agreed to here in terms of the sitting arrangement. We did appeal that because it's a joint sitting, we may not be able to do that rearrangement. So for the purposes of tomorrow and Friday and Monday, if we are sitting at the City Hall, we keep the sitting arrangement as is. So this is what was presented to the whip already this morning with certain adjustments, few adjustments. So what you have in the front row is the ANC, the NCOP, then the Democratic Alliance, Mkhonto weSizwe, EFF, and IFP, because the IFP did not indicate their preference not to sit in the front row. So we have kept the IFP in the front row. So that is one version, Madam Speaker, that I would like to present. We did later on get some inputs from the NCOP, which the Deputy Chief Whip has been dealing with, where there was a recommendation, or let me say intervention, that the NCOP would prefer to sit from the left of the chair. So where that one. But the Deputy Chief Whip was talking to the Chief Whip of the NCOP regarding that proposal and its implications for the sitting arrangement. The Deputy Chief Whip may be able to say more on that. But maybe go back. That is what we were mandated this morning by the Chief Whips Forum to work on, which was that proposal. But after the call from the NCOP, we thought let's do another option and leave it to the political leadership to decide on that. But Deputy Chief Whip may want to say something about it. Thanks, ma'am.
Yes, Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Given the discussions that we had as the National Assembly with regard to the sitting arrangements, what is being proposed by the other house, the NCOP, might cause some problems for us. So the proposal is that we stick to what was agreed upon in that Chief Whips Forum, or we stick to the current arrangement, because that City Hall is not our chamber and we cannot achieve what we want to achieve. So it would be better to stick to what we currently have, sit the way we were sitting in the previous joint sitting. So, or we maintain this, which was proposed by the Chief Whips Forum earlier today. So, my discussion with the Chief Whip of the NCOP was that if we take their route, it will give us some problems, because there is already an understanding of saying that on the far left hand side of the speaker, it should be opposition parties. Then the NCOP want to be on the far left of the speaker, which, come again, of the house, which will lead us to discuss this matter of sitting arrangement until tomorrow. So my proposal was that let's retain what we currently have, or we sit as proposed by the NA table. I think no one will lose anything with that, so that there would be no disruption of the opening of Parliament. Thank you.
Honorable members, there's proposal. Honorable Nkwankwa?
I just want to be clear, which current are we talking about? Is it the one on the screen or a different current?
This is what was proposed in the morning to the whips meeting.
Is you jumping ngahlela ngapha kodwa? Ndiyibona ibona ngo. So I'm confused.
Okay. All right. There's a proposal. Yes, Honorable Lozi.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Two things. We had asked, when we make a proposal, it must be considered to make the same schema. We asked that the NCOP sits together
Okay.
from N to the back, from N to S. That must be the NCOP terrain of struggle. And then we must welcome the
NCOP want to be on the other.
Yeah, but I'm saying that we had proposed, and it looks like that was not filtered through. Oh, but you didn't say that. Dory.
Okay. Why do you
So
speak
we had
into-
proposed that they must go to N to S. That's the first,
Okay.
all of them. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is the configuration for budget vote 1.
The configuration of?
We won't be meeting until now, until budget vote 1.
Okay.
Yeah, what would be the sitting arrangement if, actually, if, forget budget vote 1. If National Assembly sits in the City Hall after the amendment of the rules, what would it look like? So, because that must take place from Monday, well, on budget vote 1.
Ukuvile. Honorable members, I was informed that there was a proposal that was made by the NA on the sitting arrangement for tomorrow. Consultation then happened with the NCOP, who on their own actually felt that as another house that makes parliament, they want to sit together as a house, but their choice was not the N to S. Their choice was from C there, but occupying, actually not from C, from A, but occupying the seats on that extreme left. That's what they were proposing. And we then requested that maybe Deputy Chief Whip and the Chief Whip of the NCOP must consult. The NCOP was very clear, they don't want to sit in the middle, as it was proposed by the NA table. They wanted not to be at the back, as it came as a motivation in the whips meeting. They said they wanted to sit from A, but there. Well, I think we need to appreciate that Parliament is made of two houses. There is none that is smaller than, there's lesser than the other in terms of the Constitution. Honorable Nkwankwa, and then I'll ask Honorable Mr. Klassen.
I just want to establish whether, sorry.
I wanted to respond to Honorable Kwankwa. Madam Speaker, with your permission. If the honorable member can indicate to us, because the sense we got this morning was that all the other parties would want to sit together, their members sit together, and the UDM member was there. She did not object to that. So if the indication is that the UDM would want to go back to where it was, we'll make that adjustment.
Ugana was speaking for himself and his class, the honorable, not for the UDM. We did not agree to that proposal, so would like the UDM to go back to its original position, if you don't mind. But Speaker, what I wanted to establish is whether then the NCOP agreed with the initial proposal. Because if they did and were not able to amend the current or to amend the original proposal in line with the submission this morning, then the most sensible compromise in this case would be to agree to a proposal to which the NCOP might have agreed to earlier in consultations. Otherwise, we are going to discuss this thing until cows come home.
Can I get the honorable member next to Ghana and Mika?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Maybe we could be showed the proposal by the NCOP if possible, but I just wanted to say that in the Chief Whips Forum this morning, when I suggested that our members sit together from the PA, which is in the yellow, that was not with the inclusion of our president of our party, who was initially in the front. We don't mind to be at the back, but since he is in the national executive, we would like him to be in the front. We will cheer for him from the back. It wouldn't make sense in our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika.
Speaker, I just want to make a suggestion that because Honorable Gwangwa is saying that member who was in the meeting was speaking for himself, not the party. Maybe next time, don't send people who don't have authority to make decisions, because they become useless, and then we're coming here back, we're discussing the same issue that your member agreed.
Order, honorable member. I think here we are trying to look at the sitting. Let's just agree what is workable. Honorable Ndlozi, and then I'll ask Mr. Paso to indicate what was the proposal of the NCOP.
Yeah, it seems the proposal of the NCOP is projected, Speaker. But
that's what is proposed.
I want to second the other one. Yeah, I want to second this one with one adjustment, Paso. The NCOP must be in the blue. The blue must be in the NCOP. Do you see what I mean? The DA that side. So NCOP must be NCDA, NCOP, Mkondo Sizwe, AFF, and other people. Let the NCOP, we need some marriage to be, no, it's, Speaker, please, it's a respectful, real submission, and I don't want to make it, but because we've just really all agreed
Yes, we
about the
have.
principle of national, I would ask that we adopt this one with that slight swap. That's the first thing, Speaker. And I'm seconding this one. But with that a slight swapping. 2, you have not responded to Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clausen?
Madam Speaker, we have not rearranged for Tuesday because we know that we will not be at the honorable clause of responding.
Dory and Honorable Dozy, don't multitask. He's trying to respond to you.
We have not taken Tuesday for the City Hall into account because we won't be meeting there next week. So we can show here this venue, how it would look like with this proposal that was adopted today, Tibelo. So we can show that so that members can have a sense of, do you have it, Tibelo? Yes, can have a sense of how it's gonna look like. But Madam Speaker, you asked us to show the NCOP. We have shown the NCOP, Jerome. We have shown the NCOP picture, and so that's what it is. If that recommendation was taken, so is it our understanding that we're going back to what was shown earlier? Okay.
Honorable Lawut?
Madam Speaker, I think if we can go back to our old chamber, which went up in smoke, the NCOP was always in the middle. So I think we need to convince them that we take that proposal that they've shown there, up there, so that we have a smooth sitting. This one, we adopt this, we agree to this proposal, then we move forward with the sitting. Then further discussions on the sitting arrangements can be done after this one, the opening of Parliament and the debate. But for now, if we can agree to this one. Because if we open it even further, Honorable Speaker, and they insist that they want to sit on the other side, then we will be sitting here even tomorrow to discuss these sitting arrangements. It will not assist anyone. Thank you.
Honorable Member Lozi and Honorable Dlagude. You've made a request, and the unfortunate part is that we have to also respect the other house. They've expressed their view. And we took consideration when the NA table made the proposal to you in the morning. It was trying to accommodate what has always been in the old chamber where they were sitting in the middle. They vehemently objected to that. They say they want to be on the extreme left. So if we have to accommodate your view of saying the blue must be next to the yellow, it means we must also agree to move and allow them to be on the extreme right. I mean, left, no, I'm saying it follows because we can't want to accommodate them in the way we want only. So it's either we accept the proposal that has been made by the NA table in the morning, or we change to what the NCOP would like to have. And I would really appeal. When we have our own sitting, our rules have been agreed to in terms of the recommendation that has been made by the subcommittee. That doesn't change. The unfortunate part is that this is the joint sitting and we've got two houses. Agreed.
Agreed.
Honorable Member?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In principle, we agree with the seating arrangements as proposed, but I do think we should look at maybe arranging it so that the leaders of the parties, I don't want to say especially those who are in the executive, because I think it's important for all the leaders to be prominent, must sit nearer to the front. If I can just put that on the table, please, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I've noted, but it really would take a bit of persuasion and time, which you don't have. And I would really appeal that we agree with the current proposal. And let's agree with the Speaker. Agreed? That brings us to the end.
Thank you, Somlo.
Of the meeting. Meeting adjourned. You will be advised through your whips on the issue of buses for tomorrow.